Hello, brother.
How does Damon and Elena keep living on in Ian Somerhalder's mind? What hints did Candice King drop about a possible Caroline Forbes reprisal? And why does Paul Wesley think Stefan is better off dead? Hi, I'm Joy, and here are the reasons why there probably won't be a TVD reboot anytime soon. Ian Somerhalder. There was a lot of excitement in 2017 when Ian Somerhalder mentioned a possible The Vampire Diaries reboot. Unfortunately though, it's not as simple as just renewing the show, especially when it comes to the actors and whether or not they'd agree to a reboot. In a recent interview, Ian was asked about rumours circulating about a 9th TVD season and whether or not there was any truth behind the claims. However, before fans could get too excited, Ian quickly shut the rumours down. He said that he himself hadn't heard anything about a 9th season and that none of his previous co-stars had mentioned it either. According to his comments, Ian said that honestly, it wouldn't be all that realistic to revisit a world in which Damon and Elena aren't vampires anymore, which would be the premise of the reboot. As fans will recall, they both ended the series having taken the cure for vampirism and were ready to embark on life as newlyweds. Not to mention that Stefan finally passed on to the afterlife, meaning a reboot would have to happen without Paul Wesley. For Ian, these reasons make a reboot highly unlikely. He said that it wouldn't be the dramatic story fans got to know and love, and the characters wouldn't be the same, especially Damon, who'd no longer be a bad boy vampire.
You know, Damon has like gray hair, and they're, they have canes, like, oh, I gotta feed the baby. You know what I mean? No, listen, it ran a great course.
Another thing Ian asked was whether on earth anyone would need to reboot the series after all this time, especially when it continues to be a success on streaming platforms like Netflix. To him, as long as the show does well, Damon and Elena are still living on. Plus, the spirit of Mystic Falls will always be kept alive through Ian and Paul's line of bourbon whiskey, aptly named Brothers Bond. Isn't that sweet?
Brothers on the show.
Yeah.
But you often seemed like lovers to me. Is that
Well,
because I'm wildly homosexual? I mean, is that...
Well, Ian always says that the greatest romance on the show is the two brothers.
Yes.
And I actually agree with that in many ways,
If you think about it, that very bond is yet another reason the reboot might not work without Stefan. What does Paul Wesley have to say about this? More on him in a second. Nina Dobrev.
I think the show had a satisfying, awesome... For me, it was great because I got to go back and be a part of the finale and say goodbye and pay homage to the characters, so I was really happy with that for sure.
Unlike Ian, who quickly put any rumors regarding a reboot to bed, Nina herself is yet to comment on any of it, which isn't really surprising, considering her departure from the original series at the height of its popularity. And if you consider Nina's reason for having left in the first place, it makes sense why she probably wouldn't be open to playing Elena again. Just after she left TVD, Nina explained that her decision was driven by the fear of never working again once the show ended. By this, she meant that if she continued portraying the role of Elena, she'd never break out of the character. People would always see her as Elena Gilbert, and much like a Disney star, she'd never be taken seriously. In an interview, Nina said that parting from TVD after 6 seasons was the plan from the get-go. If anything, the fact that leaving terrified her drove her even more. So, after ditching Elena in 2015, what has she been up to? Nina went on to take several guest roles in TV series, as well as 2 film roles. That may sound sparse, but Nina said that she's incredibly picky about her work and that her time on The Vampire Diaries taught her to be that way. Especially since she tends to look much younger than her age, she's always offered the roles of teenagers. And while these types of characters are expected of her, it's not necessarily what she wants to do. She wants to play adult roles and be challenged and work with great filmmakers. It's sad to hear, but if you think about it, it makes sense why she wouldn't want to return to Elena. Even if the character is older now, Nina would still be seen as the young Elena Gilbert the show started with. In 2015, she made the decision to part with Elena, and as things stand, it's highly unlikely that she'll change her mind in 2021. Candice King.
And I have to ask about Legacies and your TV daughters. Will we be seeing you make an appearance at all?
Not anytime soon, but never say never. I'm really, really excited for the series premiere. I've heard so many wonderful things.
Unlike her less than willing co-stars, Candice King appears to be more than eager to reprise her role as the beloved Caroline Forbes. And for those of you who were wondering, Candice actually revealed that such an opportunity could take place in the future. No, that's not another hint at a TVD reboot, but rather a spoiler for what's to come in the popular spin-off, Legacies. In an interview, Candice said that she would never turn down a chance to step back in the role, especially not since Caroline's fate was rather left in the air after the show's finale, meaning the character could still have a lot to her storyline. She also said that while COVID changed filming schedules for most TV shows, some of her guest appearance invitations might be a little delayed. Invitations? That pretty much says it all. As of yet, Candice hasn't made a cameo in Legacies, but the main characters have often referred to Caroline off-screen. She did, however, lend her voice in the episode where Caroline's daughter Lizzie received a letter from her surrogate mother.
Jenny Boyd and I were taking an acting class earlier this year, so when she got the role, I saw her later that evening, and she was like, "I'm your daughter." I was like, "What?" So it's kind of funny how small the world can be.
Luckily, with all this hinting of Caroline's inevitable homecoming, all you die-hard TVD fans might soon be rewarded with a little trip down memory lane. Isn't it great how eager Candice is to bring Caroline back? Unfortunately, like with Nina, we saw that this isn't always the case with all actors, and it wasn't just Nina who abandoned the show early on, but more on that in a second. Paul Wesley.
I was very happy he died, and I actually had requested that he die. I felt, yeah, because he did a lot of bad things, and I felt like it was he deserved death. God.
There you go.
As we all know, no one ever stays dead in the Vampire Diaries. That is, unless they're killed off by the actors themselves. Fans across the world were shattered when Stefan Salvatore found peace through death in the finale, and the end of the series showed Stefan reuniting with Damon after he died as an old man. Absolutely tragic and absolutely touching, and that's exactly how Paul Wesley would like to keep things. Paul, now 38, was talking on a panel to promote his show, Tell Me a Story, when a reporter asked him when a TVD reboot was happening and if he would be open to giving Stefan another breath of life. His answer, like Ian, was that he had no idea. In any case, he noted that Stefan was dead, so if a reboot happened, it would have to be without him. Of course, the reporters went on to note that someone in Legacies would probably have the power to revive Stefan, but Paul still wouldn't budge. He said that even though it was possible, he didn't see that happening. The biggest problem in his eyes is how much older they as actors have gotten. Vampires having eternal youth aren't supposed to age, whereas the actors would need special effects to look young again.
I think, I honestly think both brothers should have died, and I feel good about it, although I would have liked that we both died and that Elena, the girl at the end of the show, all her memory was wiped and she went on to live a normal life.
Paul also brought his co-star Ian into the conversation by stating that both of them went for completely different roles than Stefan and Damon in their following projects because, like Nina, they wanted to move on. I think when you're on a show for 8 years, he said, it can be that you really want to try to flex your muscles in a different capacity. I think every actor tries to always do something so that they can be seen a little bit differently, and, you know, I'm just grateful for the opportunity.
Good. My question's for Paul. Okay. I wanted to know if he had any plans to make a guest appearance on the Vampire Diaries spin-off Legacies.
Oh, no.
You've direct.
So Stefan might be gone, but all you Paul Wesley fans get to enjoy his talents in a completely different context. That said, he did return to Mystic Falls to direct an episode of Legacies in Season 1, and we'd love to see his name in future credits. What do you think? Does Paul make a solid point for wanting to keep Stefan where he is underground? Kat Graham.
6 months into the show, I'm still like sleeping on an inflatable mattress because you're not going to make me spend my money, you know? And I stayed on the show, and it ended up having this like
8 years
cult following. Still to this show has been off since like 2017.
After Nina's departure from TVD, the fandom suffered another sudden loss when Kat Graham, or Bonnie, announced that she was leaving the show in 2017. Her news came months before the showrunner Julie Plec decided the 2017 season would be everybody's last. When announcing her departure, Kat said that she hoped whatever she did after, the crew could come with her. That's because they were the hardest to let go of, essentially feeling like family. And as hard as it was to bow out, it was something she felt she had to do, much like Nina.
I'm blown away. So it's really like a testament to Julie and Kevin and
talking about Vampire Diaries.
Talking about that show, and you know, I put a lot of work. I busted my ass on that show, and you know, had a lot of great epiphanies that came from it, and who I wanted to be, and figuring myself out in my 20s, and you know, now I'm 30, so I know
God, what
exactly
a great
who I am.
tugboat to have though through your 20s.
Even though she loved Bonnie as a character, and despite everything she achieved on TVD, Kat wanted to focus on expanding her career. And despite not having been a part of any majorly recognizable projects since leaving TVD, she's still working hard to break free from her CW character. Whether or not she'd be open to reprising her role, it's difficult to say. Having spent 8 years on the show, Kat might consider it, but having also left on her own, she could feel the same way as Nina. Even if Kat agreed to revisiting Bonnie, it still doesn't change the fact that a TVD reboot just isn't on the cards right now. In the meantime, Legacies is sure to fill the hole of yearning in our hearts, and in case you didn't know, The Catcher has quite a few behind-the-scenes videos of your favorite Legacies characters. What do you think? Will there ever be a right time for a TVD reboot? Let us know in the comments below. Thanks for watching.